I am a man, Chiamaka. Men don't fetch water like children. Do you hear me? Like children.
Ah! The scream tore through the village like a lightning strike. Children froze mid-step. Goats bolted in every direction, and even the sun seemed to pause behind the clouds. From the mud walls of Obina's compound came the sound of panic, sharp and ragged, bouncing off the red soil like a drumbeat of chaos. Inside the house, Nkiru's hands shook violently as she clutched her wrapper, pressing it to her face to hide the tears streaming down her cheeks. She had barely finished setting the table. Fufu soft, soup steaming, water poured perfectly. And yet it was all wrong. Obina's face was a storm, his jaw tight, nostrils flaring, eyes dark and dangerous like storm clouds over the Niger River. "You call this fufu? This?" he roared, slamming his fist on the table so hard that the bowl jumped and spilled a few drops of soup onto the floor. His voice rattled the walls. "Do you want me dead with your cooking?" Nkiru's knees buckled. "My husband, I only..." "Only?" Obina bellowed, stepping closer, chest puffed, looming like a lion circling its prey. "Do you think your trembling hands can save you? Eh? You are nothing." He raised his hand slowly, savoring the control, each motion deliberate. Slap! The sound cracked through the room, echoing across the courtyard. Nkiru's cheeks stung. Her body trembled from the shock. She fell backward, trying to shield herself with her arms. "Do you hear me?" he shouted, jabbing a finger into her chest as she whimpered. "You think silence protects you? You will learn tonight, and again, until you understand your place." Outside, neighbors peered cautiously over the fences. Women shook their heads, whispering to each other. Men stopped walking past, unsure whether to intervene. Children ducked behind the mud walls, eyes wide. The goats scattered, bleating in confusion. Nkiru curled in the corner, small as a bird, whispering prayers. "God, please help me." Obina returned to his seat, wiping sweat from his brow, and ate the fufu as though nothing had happened. He belched loudly. "Ah, now this is food." And thus began the pattern. 7 years of terror, 7 years of fear, 7 years of a woman shrinking into nothing, while a man thrived on control. 3 months after Nkiru's spirit quietly left the world, Obina, chest puffed and pride intact, began searching for another quiet wife to dominate. Obina strutted into Amaifeke village like a king entering his court. Chest puffed, head high, muscles gleaming under the mid-morning sun. He looked every inch the man who had terrorized women for years. But today, he was on a mission. Today, he was hunting his next victim. Or so he thought. He had already chosen the criteria. Quiet, obedient, soft-spoken, eyes that stayed on the ground when men spoke. Nothing loud, nothing daring, nothing that could challenge his pride. Yes, just like Nkiru, only this time he would make sure she didn't die under his hand. He hoped. And then he saw her, Chiamaka. Ah, my people, let me tell you, she looked ordinary at first glance. Skin smooth like the first rains on dry soil, eyes soft, gazing downward, hands folded lightly in front of her. A gentle smile that seemed to say, "I am harmless." Obina's chest swelled. "Ah, finally, a woman who knows her place," he muttered to himself. Her father was there, poor man, proud and eager to receive a large bride price. "My daughter, she obeys. She does not speak unnecessarily. She will make you a good wife," he said, puffing out his thin chest. Obina smiled like a man who had won a battle before it started. He imagined nights of perfect obedience, mornings where breakfast would appear just so, and evenings where every command would be met with trembling compliance. The wedding was small, simple, the kind where you can hear every whisper and every fly buzzing. Chiamaka moved quietly into his house, carrying her few belongings. Her eyes stayed lowered, hands folded, head bowed. Obina's grin stretched from ear to ear. Finally, he thought, a wife who feared him properly. The first weeks were perfect. Chiamaka woke before the cock crowed. The house was spotless, clothes washed, ironed, folded, breakfast served promptly. She flinched when he raised his hand, bowed her head when he shouted, trembled when he gestured angrily. Obina trotted around the village, puffed chest, showing off. See this, men? This is the secret. Authority from the start. Let them know who is the head of the house. The other men nodded, some jealous, some admiring, some muttering. Ah, that is a fine example of control. 6 months passed. Obina's pride grew. He began to test her. He shouted, he threw food, he raised his hand as if to strike. But Chiamaka did not flinch, did not cry, did not beg. Obina's face darkened. His pride fled. This woman, she is too quiet. Something is off. And here is where the cleverness comes in. Chiamaka had studied Obina before agreeing to the marriage. She had walked through Umocha, whispered with the market women, listened to every story, every scream, every tear of Nkiru. She had learned exactly what happened, every slap, every shout, every threat you forced on her. She could have refused him, run away, but no, she had a plan. Her obedience was an act, her fear a mask. Every tremble, every lowered gaze, every small smile was calculated. She was studying him, learning his habits, his weaknesses, his pride, waiting for the perfect moment. And oh, that moment came faster than anyone expected. It was a Tuesday. The sun had barely risen. Obina woke, expecting his breakfast served just as he liked it. Piping hot soup, fufu soft but firm, water poured in the right cup, table set perfectly. He walked into the kitchen, expecting the usual ritual. Nothing. The table was empty. Not a plate, not a cup, not even a spoon. The pots were cold, the fire long dead. Where is my breakfast? He shouted, stomping his feet like a wild elephant. From the bed came a soft yawn. Chiamaka stretched languidly, arms reaching over her head. She sat up slowly, eyes half closed, and said in the calmest voice, "Oh, you needed something?" Obina froze. His jaw dropped, his face turned red, then purple, then a shade of green you do not see on humans often. Did she just speak like that, casually, as if I'm nothing? Yes, I needed breakfast. Are you mad? Do you want to die? He advanced slowly, hand raised, nostrils flaring. Chiamaka calmly swung her legs off the bed. Ah, I was tired this morning. I slept in. You can make your own breakfast if you like, she said, smiling faintly. Obina's face twisted. He launched his hand, a strike meant to intimidate, to control, but Chiamaka was ready. Swift as a cat, she rolled off the bed, grabbed his wrist, and twisted with a force that made him grunt in pain. His massive hand bent backward, his face pressed to the floor. Let me go, you witch," she said, calm and almost cheerful. Not a witch, just a woman who knows how to defend herself and who knows your past. Obina froze. His eyes widened. Past? What do you mean? Chiamaka pressed his face harder on the floor. I visited Umocha. I heard everything. How Nkiru suffered, how she died, every cry, every slap, every threat you forced on her. Blood ran cold in Obina's veins. His chest heaved. Pride wounded more than his arm. You knew, he stammered. I knew, she said softly, and I decided you needed a lesson. Your fear, your pride, it will break starting today. She released him, and he scrambled backward, confused, humiliated, burning with shame. That morning, Obina's empire crumbled. The man who thought he could dominate every woman in sight now faced a wife who could and would match him in strength, cunning, and courage. Ah, my people, laughter and justice were about to dance in this compound. Obina awoke the next morning feeling strange. Not tired, not sore. Strange. Something had shifted in the air, and oh, he could feel it crawling along his skin like ants he could not swat away. He rubbed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he saw his home differently. The house was quiet. Too quiet. He expected breakfast waiting for him, fufu soft, soup steaming, water in the perfect cup. But there was nothing, not even the smell of firewood. He sniffed. Nothing. Silence. Chiamaka. His voice shook slightly, unsure, a rare tremor in his usual thunder. From the kitchen came a soft hum. He tiptoed, chest puffed, but even that chest, so proud for years, felt smaller somehow. There she was, Chiamaka, calmly washing clothes in the basin, her sleeves rolled up, water splashing lightly around her. "Good morning," she said, not looking up. Her hands moved with precision, but her eyes glimmered with mischief. Calm, confident, knowing exactly the chaos she could unleash. Obina's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Where is breakfast?" She looked up slowly, a smile playing on her lips. "Breakfast? Oh, I was too tired to cook this morning. I thought maybe you could do it." The world tilted for Obina, the man who had ruled his house with fear, who had built his empire on intimidation and terror, froze like a tree struck by lightning. His hand twitched toward the stove, a reflex, an old habit. Nkiru's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. In a flash, she grabbed his wrist, twisting with ease. No, Obina. I think you need to learn that hands can do more than strike. They can cook, they can clean, they can serve." Obina yelped, dropping into a scramble on the floor, trying to wrestle free, face pressed against the mud mat. The room echoed with his grunts, flailing, a symphony of confusion and pride colliding with skill and cleverness. Outside, the neighbors began to notice the chaos. Women peered over fences, whispering, "Is he fighting her, or is she teaching him a lesson?" Children stopped playing, pointing. Even the goats bleated as though cheering for Chiamaka. For hours that day, Obina was put to work. He washed the dishes until his fingers wrinkled like old yams. He swept the compound, huffing and puffing under Chiamaka's calm supervision. And every time he tried to argue, a sharp word or a flick of her hand reminded him, "You are not the master here anymore." By afternoon, news had spread across Amaifeke village. Big, strong Obina, once feared by everyone, was on his knees scrubbing his wife's clothes. Passers-by stopped staring in disbelief. One of his friends, Kelechi, leaned on the fence, laughing so hard he nearly fell. "Obina, is that really you, washing clothes like a woman?" Obina's face burned hotter than the midday sun. He opened his mouth to answer, but Chiamaka's gaze cut through him like a spear. "Mind your business," she said softly, calm as ever. Kelechi backed away, still chuckling, muttering, "I will never see this village the same again." But the real fun was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Chiamaka perfected her strategy. She didn't just stop Obina from hurting her. Oh no, she made him live her past. Every task he had once demanded she perform, he now did under her watchful eye. cooking, sweeping, fetching water, grinding pepper, each chore a lesson in humility. And when he tried to rebel, when that old pride surged like a tidal wave, she was ready. One morning, he stomped his feet, chest swelling, arms raised to threaten. Chiamaka calmly grabbed a broom, swung it lightly, and he ran around the compound like a man possessed. Neighbors peeked, jaws dropped, children laughed, even the old women shook their heads in delight. "Oh, this is better than the market theater," one exclaimed, clapping. "He's finally met his match." Obina's face turned every shade of shame imaginable, but he dared not stop. Chiamaka's calm, quiet dominance had stripped him of his old power. Every shout he tried to unleash was swallowed by the fear of public humiliation and the memory of Nkiru's tragedy, now in his hands, a lesson he could not ignore. By the end of the first month, Obina was transformed. Muscles once hard and proud now flexed as he scrubbed, kneaded, and swept. Hands that delivered fear now delivered soap and water. Voice that shouted commands now muttered softly, "Yes, wife." And the village, oh, the village could hardly believe it. Women gathered at the stream, whispering and giggling. "Do you see him? Big Obina, the terror of Umuocha, washing clothes like a child." Men walked past, heads down, some shaking in disbelief, others with a sly grin, learning a lesson about pride and power they would not forget. Chiamaka, meanwhile, smiled quietly. She never raised her hand. She never truly hurt him. But every day she reminded him, fear has a price, pride has a price, and cruelty has a price you cannot outrun. By the time the sun set each day, Obina would collapse onto the mat, exhausted, humbled, and oddly thinking. Thinking about what he had done to Nkiru. Thinking about the years wasted, the pride lost, the lesson painfully learnt. And my people, this is where the story begins to turn the corner. Where justice walks quietly, step by step, chore by chore, until the man who once struck fear into hearts now feared being a man again. The sun had barely touched the red earth of Amaifeke that morning when Obina stumbled out of bed, still stiff from scrubbing clothes, pounding yam, and fetching water. His pride shattered. His chest, once the symbol of terror, now slouched like a deflated drum. He could feel the village staring even before he left the house, and oh, every eye was a dagger of judgment. Chiamaka was already in the kitchen, humming a soft tune, hands deep in dough. She looked up, eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of a plan executed perfectly. "Good morning," she said, as if nothing had changed. Obina's lips moved, trying to form a reply, but nothing came out. Instead, he shuffled like a man afraid of the sun, hands trembling slightly as he poured water into a pot under her watchful gaze. "You know what to do," she said, calm and unyielding, "or I visit the square and tell everyone exactly what kind of man you are." He gulped. Yes, the square, the heart of the village where gossip traveled faster than fire in dry grass. The thought alone made him sweat like a man running from a wild dog. And so it began, a morning ritual that became legendary in Amaifeke. Obina cooked breakfast, washed dishes, cleaned the yard, scrubbed clothes, and even ground pepper with precision. Every movement watched by Chiamaka's calm, calculating eyes. Every mistake, no matter how small, corrected with a quiet word or a sharp glance. The village could hardly believe their eyes. Men who once boasted about controlling their wives stopped boasting. Women whispered among themselves, nodding in approval. "Ah, this is how it should be," one elderly woman said. "He who mistreats will one day serve." Obina tried to rebel once. Oh, he tried. One afternoon, he slammed a wooden bucket down on the ground, muttering, "I am a man. Men don't fetch water like children." Chiamaka looked up calmly, the corner of her mouth curling into that faint, dangerous smile. "Ah, you are a man, the same man who struck Nkiru until her soul gave up?" Obina froze. Blood ran cold. He opened his mouth, shut it, opened it again. Before he could act, Chiamaka grabbed a broom, swinging lightly. Smack! The handle hit the back of his legs just enough to make him stumble forward, arms flailing. He ran around the compound, yelping, trying to dodge the broom like a frightened goat. Neighbors peeking over the fences, laughing so hard their bellies ached. "Please, please, I'm sorry," he screamed, dodging the next swing. "Where was this sorry when Nkiru begged you?" Chiamaka said calmly, eyes sharp as hawk's feathers. The laughter from the village reached a crescendo. Even the men who once feared him were clutching their sides, gasping for air. Obina, exhausted, humbled, and thoroughly defeated, sank to his knees in the mud. The man who once ruled with fear was now kneeling before the woman he thought powerless. Days turned into weeks. Obina's transformation became complete. His hands, once hard from violence, were soft from chores. His voice, once loud and commanding, was now quiet, obedient. His steps, once heavy with intimidation, now carried the caution of a man who knew his place. Chiamaka, meanwhile, smiled quietly. She never raised her hand again. She never truly hurt him. But every day, Obina remembered Nkiru, remembered the pain, remembered the consequences of unchecked cruelty, and he lived with it silently, humbly, obediently. The village loved it. Women gathered at the stream just to watch him grind pepper, wash clothes, or fetch water. Children pointed and laughed, whispering to one another, "That is Obina, the man who thought he was a lion but is now a house cat." Even travelers passing through Amaifete stopped to see if the stories were true. And yes, they were. Obina, the feared, the proud, the violent, now served quietly under the watchful gaze of Chiamaka, the woman who outsmarted him without lifting a hand in true violence. And Chiamaka, oh my people, she lived in quiet satisfaction. She opened a small clothing business, selling her wares in the market. Every morning, Obina prepared her breakfast, served her first, cleaned the house, and worked as hard as she pleased, all without complaint. Sometimes at night, when the village was silent, she would place flowers on Nkiru's grave. "I did it, sister," she whispered softly. "I made him pay in the only way that counts. He is alive, but he will never hurt another woman like you again." The elders who once ignored Nkiru's suffering looked at Chiamaka with fear and respect. They murmured, "She has done what we could not. Justice, cold but precise." And so, my people, remember this. Pride goes before a fall. Cruelty always has a price. Strength is not about raising your hand, but knowing when to stand against injustice. And sometimes, justice comes quietly, like a shadow, waiting for the right moment to strike. Obina became a living lesson for every man who thought fear was power. Chiamaka became a legend, a story whispered from one generation to the next, the woman who outwitted cruelty with patience, wit, and courage. The village learned, the women rejoiced, the children laughed, and Obina, well, he fetched water, ground pepper, and scrubbed clothes for the rest of his days, quietly, humbly, and perhaps, just perhaps, remembering every mistake he ever made. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe, like, comment, and share.